Hi, my name's Hudson, and I'm a geoholic.
Just a quick note to express our appreciation for the 2021 Friends of the Program for their continued support. Please consider their products and services as they have special promos for Geoholics listeners. Aerotech Mapping Inc., atmlv.com. Advanced Geodetic Surveys Inc., agsgps.com. Bad Elf GPS, bad-elf.com. Cobb Fenley, cobbfenley.com. Cyanic Automation, cyanicautomation.com. Diamondback Land Surveying, diamondbacklandsurveying.com. Get Kids Into Survey, getkidsintosurvey.com. Land Surveyors United, landsurveyorsunited.com. Mentoring Mondays, mentoringmondays.xyz. Monson Engineering, monsonengineering.com. Parkland Community College, parkland.edu/land-surveying. Safety Apparel, safetyapparel.us. And last but not least, Tiger Supplies, tigersupplies.com. OMFG. If that doesn't make you want to run through the wall that was 2020 to get to 2021, nothing will. Happy New Year, everybody, and thanks for being here. This is episode 64, also known as the...
George Blanda.
Oh, good one.
Yeah,
good one.
He was 1949 12th round pick, 119 overall, just before our guest this evening. He was a quarterback and place kicker. He played 26 seasons in the NFL, or
Crazy.
AFL and NFL. From 1949 to 1975, he's one of like two players to play in 4 different decades.
Wow.
All these random things. He played for the Bears, Colts, went back to the Bears, Oilers, Raiders. NFL Man of the Year in 74, 81, Hall of Fame, and he passed away in 2010 at the age of 83.
Hey, good for him.
Yeah.
Talk about living a good life right there.
Oh, my goodness. 83 years, 26 of them in the NFL. That's not bad.
Not so bad.
That's a good run.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Shoots. Curious if you guys have any New Year's resolutions. What do you got there, Jake?
Oh, man. I didn't know I was going to be
putting you on the spot
for that.
Yeah, what do you got? Think of something.
Probably being less attached, just off the first thing I thought of, being less attached to like my phone and like other electronics. Being able to like, that's actually one thing that really makes me upset is when I can't sit down and watch like a movie at length without touching anything or like being distracted. So working on that.
There's medication for that, you know.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm on all of them. Don't worry.
Maybe you can have a little bit.
What do you got, Shoots?
I got to lose this COVID-19 I've gained.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what?
I'm like, you tested positive?
No. I just in the holiday season, I've gone up a few again. So I got to get back down to Delphi weight.
You'll get there.
Yeah, someday.
How about you, Mr. Gus? You have a New Year's resolution?
I do. I want to get more involved in meditation early morning and then a little more journaling so I can kind of clear my mind before I start the day.
I hear good things about both those things.
Little Calm app.
I need calm.
Oh, man. Yep. What's her name? Tamara Levitt. I'll give her a shout out. Oh, man. She is fantastic.
Yeah.
Her voice is very calming and
interesting.
I dabble a little bit.
All right. Right on. Mine's pretty simple. It's just don't do dumb things. So
it's harder than it sounds.
I know. All right, so I'm so excited about what we have in store for 2021. We've got some new friends of the program, as you just heard. Amazing value-adding guests, as you'll see here in just a bit. Let's see, we've got some new contests for our listeners, new gear to make the quality even better, new ways to support the show, and hopefully even some remote podcasts, kind of like a Geoholics for hire. So if you're looking for a fun way to spice up your Zoom meetings or an upcoming event, you know how to reach us.
We're on the road.
We could be.
We're available.
Always available. All right, PJ, tell us about that opening number.
All right, guys. So that, of course, is going to be Metallica, American heavy metal band formed in 1981 in L.A. By vocalist and guitarist James Hetfield and drummer Lars Ulrich. Metallica has released 10 studio albums, 4 live albums, a cover album, 37 singles, 39 music videos, And the band has won 9 Grammy Awards from 23 nominations and ranks as one of the most commercially successful bands of all time, having sold over 130 million albums worldwide.
So was that cover album the Garage one? Am I crazy? What was? I just remember.
I think it was.
I just remember Whiskey in the Jar.
Yeah.
And
Great,
other than
great
that,
version.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Thanks, PJ. Good job. So guess what? You as a listener are going to have another opportunity to connect with us this year. So get this. On the second Thursday of every month, one of our friends of the program will be hosting what we are going to call the Geoholics Hospitality Suite. Thanks to Michael Thompson for the name. So being, of course, a virtual happy hour, this is going to be awesome. So stay tuned for additional details on that. In addition, another change to what I just mentioned, another upgrade to the show. Every week, we will be highlighting one of our friends of the program, with this week being Aerotech Mapping, of course. So fittingly, Big Shoots is going to tell us everything we need to know about this awesome company.
Aerotech Mapping is the most amazing company in the world. They employ one of the greatest people in the world, myself. They're a nationally recognized aerial mapping provider based in the Southwest. They're staffed by a highly experienced group of photogrammetric professionals. We service both the private sector and public agencies, entrusting us with their critical mapping needs. We've recently added a Teledyne Galaxy CM200, which delivers precise digital fine corridor elements such as electric wires and conductors, distribution power poles, railway signs, cellular tower antennas, as well as the ability to detect fine changes in the ground over time for pipeline monitoring. Man, oh man. I just stumbled through that one. It was a read.
Yep.
I just got to tell you, Aerotech is a fantastic company. We deliver great photogrammetric products, anything you need. We own and operate our own plane. I say we because I'm a part of the team. And just anything you need, reach out to Big Shoots.
I like it. That was my next question. So the people that are lining up right now to have all their photogrammetry done
after that fantastic
by
read,
Aerotech, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, you go to the website atmlv.com because we're based out of Las Vegas. So it's Aerotech Mapping Las Vegas. So atmlv.com. The general is just like the Geoholics, info@atmlv.com, or you can look me up at Ryan Kelly at atmlv.com.
Fantastic. There you go.
There we go.
Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Finally, one last change. I promise this is going to be awesome. There is going to be this is totally new. Hopefully this goes as planned. We're going to have a weekly, let's call it a pod word. So if you email us all the pod words from all the episodes we release each month, you are going to be eligible to win that month's listener prize, which this month is a $100 Amazon gift card. So listen closely. This week's pod word is, are you ready? Photogrammetry.
Ooh, I like it.
Photogrammetry.
How do you spell that?
Photogrammetry.
If they spell it incorrectly, what happens?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
If they're close, it's good. I had to look it up, so.
I think if you type it into Word, it tells you it's incorrect.
Does it? No. All right. So anyways, if you're listening and you want to be eligible for the prize, make sure at the end of the month you email us all of the pod words for the month. All right, cool. Here we are at the Cobb Fenley studio. This is pretty much home for us, at least for the time being. But that's okay because it works perfect, and we really do appreciate the Cobb Fenley folks for allowing us to record here. And shameless plug, I guess, by the way, if you apply for a position with Cobb Fenley, be sure to put Kent Grow in the referral box. Good things will happen if you get the job.
Does that go for Aerotech as well?
Does it? I don't know.
Why not?
All right.
If you apply, just mention Big Shoots.
There you go.
And Leo will say, who the hell's that?
He's a legend there. All right. Next up, we have the Safety Apparel Safety Share. Big Shoots. What do you got this week?
We're going to keep it short and simple. Hearing loss and hearing aids don't skip them. We wear headphones. Somebody has to wear them really loud, pointing in this direction, meaning Delphi Delph. There's no fix for permanent hearing loss caused by loud noises. Neither surgery nor a hearing aid can restore proper ear function, which is why hearing protection when exposed to loud noise is so important. That's simple.
I like it. Way too many concerts for this guy.
I was going to say, and with Metallica as the opening song, it just felt fitting.
Yeah. No, good one. Good choice there, Shoots. Appreciate it. Let's get on with our guest this evening. Our guest is Thomas Olmsted. Here's some bio information about him. Thomas grew up in Lake City, Florida, and attended Troy University, go Trojans, where he played football and baseball. Get this, he played in the 2006 Senior Bowl and also attended the Harvard Business School as well. He's got 2 little boys with the coolest names ever, Cannon and Porter. Besides Ryan's little guy, our OG, Hudson, of course. He is currently the VP of National Accounts for Pavecon, a local paving company. A few of his career highlights include being an undrafted free agent with the Miami Dolphins, becoming a Navy SEAL, and using those experiences to successfully transition to the civilian sector where he's excelled working in private equity and business development. Wow, this could be the start of a new man crush. Let's see here. Thomas, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your service, most importantly, and of course for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited. This is actually my first podcast, so
Cool.
We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, we're gonna have a blast, no doubt. So let's just circle back on a couple bio things that we have we're curious about. So you're gonna laugh at this. Besides this highly sought after Thomas, I hopefully didn't see that. Thomas Olmsted football card, which, by the way, the shipping costs more than the cost of the card.
That's about right. That's my net worth right there.
So besides the highly sought after card, what is the highlight of your athletic career?
I think the Senior Bowl.
Senior Bowl?
Yeah, that was pretty special to be a part of that and to be around so many great athletes. And also I went to the NFL Combine.
Cool.
And that was really, really cool to be around, Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and guys like that. So I'm walking the streets of these legends, and I'm a nobody, and it was pretty special to be a part of that.
So basically, you and Matt Leinart are basically at the same level these days.
Well, he's on Fox Sports, so he's probably a little bit better than me, but yeah.
He's on Fox Sports, and this guy's stuck with us.
Dude, when Matt Leinart came to the Valley, I was like, he was supposed to be the savior. I was like, this guy is going to take us to the promised land, and
How'd that go?
what an awful failure. Okay, so I did a little bit of research about Troy, and it looked like there's a ton of astronauts and military brass that graduated from there. What's the connection there? I'm just curious.
Absolutely. So I've actually wondered this as well. And when I joined the military, I actually realized, okay, Troy has a very, very good online military program that a lot of people from the leadership attend that program. And while I was actually deployed on my first deployment, one of the guys who was in charge of SOCOM, which is Special Operations Command, he pulls up in our outstation where I was located, and he actually had graduated from Troy's master's program through the online military kind of academy, if you will.
Gotcha.
So that's the relationship there. I have nothing to do. That Troy didn't gear me for the military, but it definitely has a very big presence.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned the military, and besides becoming a Navy SEAL, which don't get me wrong is impressive enough, what would you say is the highlight of your military career?
The people I was with. Those guys are my best friends on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys that I'm still really, really good friends with. I got people that come out to Phoenix all the time, and Phoenix actually looks a little bit like Iraq and Afghanistan, and so there's a lot of training that goes on around here. But the people, like the Navy SEALs that I worked with and was fortunate enough to be around, they inspired me to be better than what I was, and that's what I take away every day.
Yep. Great, good answer there.
Man, that I just feel inferior right now.
That's
I'm sorry
right.
to say,
We're on a roll here. Let's keep this going.
just with the people that you met and you dealt with there. Is there anybody that you would not have their back until the end of the day?
No.
Okay.
But that goes as a military as a whole.
Yeah.
You don't have to just be a Navy SEAL for me to have your
just in
back.
general.
But, there's a brotherhood and a bond and sisterhood, however you want to say it, from anybody who served. And, everybody may say, oh, well, the Marines, the Navy, that's all good and well. But the reality is that we're all joined, and especially if you joined since 2011 or 2001 after 9/11, you joined with the mindset that you were going to war. And that holds a very special place to me because you were willing to put it on the line, and I don't think a lot of people really understand that, as only about 1% to 2% of the population of the United States is actually impacted by war since 9/11. It's been 18, 19 years.
Yep.
So the entire service, but the SEALs, obviously, I'm not going to say we're the tip of the spear, but those guys are absolutely, my best friends.
Machines, no doubt about it.
That is amazing.
Yep. So how you've got like a pretty unique background, having the athletic high level athletic, side of things, plus the Navy SEAL experience. How, I guess in general, how have those life experiences like formed you as a person, and I guess as a leader for that matter?
Yeah. So I think football as sports, I was an undrafted free agent with the Dolphins, and NFL stands for not for long. And that was my career I didn't make it very, very long, but what it allowed me to understand is adversity. It allowed me to understand that I wasn't going to make it, but I'm still going to give everything I have till the last day, whenever I got fired essentially by Nick Saban, which was pretty funny. And I left and I said, what's my next option? I got to adapt and overcome to the situation. As a leader, that's like one of the most important things you can really learn and understand truly is that you're not always going to win, but you always got to put yourself in a position to make changes, to be adaptable, to be a chameleon in the space. And in the military, leadership is taken very, very seriously. And every day is professional development, if you will. And so whenever you're in those environments of making real life and death decisions, you understand the consequences of and accountability, and trust is the foundation of all relationships and all business relationships or personal, whichever you want to look at. And so from a leader, those things allowed me to understand adversity, to understand how to fail, to understand that that's okay, but you got to get your ass up and keep moving. Right. And if you're willing to do that, then you're willing to put yourself in position to take accountability for your actions, which allows you to then therefore be the leader of you, yourself first, team second.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say that, team sports and the military especially, are just amazing foundation. It creates an amazing foundation for leaders moving forward. And I want to dig into that a little bit more. So in your opinion, and I'm always curious about how people think about this. Are leaders born being wired differently than others genetically, or are they created by life experiences?
I think that certain people have certain personality traits or behavioral traits that allow them to be leaders maybe a little easier. But just because you have those traits doesn't mean you're a good leader. And I think there's a difference between being a leader and being a positive influence. And leadership to me is really about influencing. And you learn how to influence over experiences. You gain the respect of the individuals around you by have been there, done that, been there before, truly wearing multiple hats and getting dirty, getting your hands dirty, if you will. So the question to answer, I think leadership is developed over time. And you couldn't tell somebody who's born with the traits at 10 years old to lead me right now. I don't care what your behavioral traits are, you're just not going to do it.
Sure.
But somebody with the right traits and the right experiences and the right lessons and the willing to learn, those are the people who are going to really step into a phenomenal big time leadership roles.
So at the end of the day, it's a combination of both.
Sure.
You got to be born with it to a point, but you got to live it.
You do. But I think that people that aren't born with it can learn how to be great leaders. I think there's a lot of people in industry right now, tycoon or, the big leaders of industry that don't have the traits, but they have either the functional ability or they have the learned ability to lead and make an impact. And I think that, so I do think it's really learned. I think there are people that absorb and naturally do it maybe a little better, but I truly believe, and I learned this at Harvard Business, that you are taught a set of skills, and if you can apply those skills and truly influence people to get the right outcomes, then you can lead anything, industry agnostic.
Do you think that a child born into, say, one of the poorest families on the west side of Phoenix has the same ability and, I guess, opportunity to be a leader as somebody who's born to the richest family in North Scottsdale?
Absolutely. So in the military and the SEAL teams, we always say, be a leader of self, right? You got to lead yourself before you can lead others. If you can't lead yourself, then what good are you, essentially? But just because you're born in a rich environment, it doesn't give you the tools. It doesn't give you the ability to lead yourself positively and then therefore lead others. Now, are you given afforded opportunities to go to better school systems? Absolutely. And that's some of the systemic stuff we have going on now that everybody talks about. But I know people that grew up with nothing, absolutely nothing, and became probably the best leaders I've ever been around. And I have a Master Chief that comes to mind Has 10 Bronze Stars with Valor.
Wow.
2 Purple Hearts. He was my last Master Chief. He knows what I'm talking about if he's listening. And he didn't grow up with anything.
Yeah.
Grew up in a small, poor town in Florida and became a 32-year Navy SEAL.
Wow, that's amazing.
Be a leader herself. I think we got
love it.
We got a new one here, boys.
2021.
Yeah, that
Kicking
one-
it off right. I
Oh
like
man,
it.
that one's solid.
For sure. So I'm sure you're aware of this guy, Jocko Willink.
I know.
Yeah. I'm pretty fond of the guy, and he said something that I wanted to run by you, and I mean I believe the statement is true. True leaders aren't in charge of everything. In fact, true leaders aren't in charge of anything. Do you agree with that?
So Jocko put me through my first platoon training.
Is that right?
I don't know him personally. He has a lot of profound statements, and he makes a lot of really good points, and I definitely agree with what you're saying. It's hard for me to kind of wrap my head around all of that.
Mhm.
The principles that he lives by, and so does Echelon Front, those guys are phenomenal. I worked with a couple of those guys, and they're absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
The principles that they teach it's not just the SEAL teams. That can be applied anywhere. But a lot of those foundations are what I live by. Great leaders, what I saw in the military, just with Jocko, a great example, is he may not have been like directly in charge of one thing. And that's what most people look at as leadership. But he influences what I was talking about with leadership. He was able to influence the battle space in a way by not pulling the trigger, right? Or not maybe dropping the bomb or setting the explosive, but by manipulating and influencing, guiding, and almost being a puppet master, if you will, of excellence.
Yep.
Right. And he demanded that, which I think is great. And I'm getting chills talking about it, but it allowed him to not be solely responsible for one thing, but to be overall responsible for everything.
Mhm.
And it gave him the freedom, that structure and rigidity to know that he could empower someone to go do something. It gave him the freedom to take a step back and be a visionary. And that's real leadership. Once you can realize I got to take a step back and I got to look 5 steps ahead of everybody else because the smoke is dark and the explosions are loud and people are here and people are there, he could step back and truly visualize the battlefield from a very high level and make incredible decisions, as that's probably the most prolific platoon or troop in the history of the SEAL teams.
Wow.
Now, Vietnam guys, I don't know enough about that, but modern warfare, he led some of the greatest warriors of our time.
That's awesome. The comment you just made, puppet master of excellence, that just gave me the chills. That was awesome. And I think you mentioned him being like a visionary, and I think the only way he can have success, being that role is to have leaders, over these other sectors or whatever that he trusts and he counts on.
Delegation.
No doubt. And so trust is the key word in my opinion. So his LT, so lieutenants, the guys who are in charge of the platoons, so the officers in charge of the platoons, and his chiefs and LPOs or lead petty officers, I worked with a couple of those guys and they were just incredible. Now, he pushed them to be that, right? He pushed them to be great. And that's something a leader does inherently. They continuously push people around them to be better than what they are today.
Yep.
And he was able to do that. And through our training pipelines, which our training is incredible, and he was actually one of the developers of our new training philosophies, train for the unknown. That was one of his deals.
Yeah, right.
And so we live that, unfortunately, a lot of 27 million mile hikes, but it was for a good point. But he pushed those guys in the right positions in the right ways so that they were willing to make decisions. And he would trust that those decisions were right to give him the authority and ability to step back, right? And so he empowered, but he also followed up. So empowerment is one thing, but empowerment with follow-up and follow-through allows your people around you to become better. And he constantly did that. So whenever he got into Iraq and Ramadi and Fallujah, he was able to allow them to go execute. Right at that point, it's just we've been there, we've done that, let's execute. And I wasn't a part of that, so I'm not going to speak like I was. Sure. But you could see how he trained and how he worked that out. And honestly, the military from 2009 to now, and especially in naval special warfare, is better for him.
Wow, that's high praise, no doubt. Pretty amazing.
Wow.
So I always say, and you touched on it a little bit, ever since I've been in a position to hire people, I always try to hire people that are better than me at something. because ultimately they're going to make me look good, right? You put them in, set them on their path and let them do their job, basically. And the one thing also is accountability. And, that definitely has to be constantly enforced. I mean, you have to be the most accountable, I guess, as a leader. You're accountable for everything. But, it's uber important to, also pass that accountability along to the folks that you're leading. Let's tie this into business here just a little bit. Talk about the importance of, integrity as far as leadership goes.
There's nothing more important. I mean, trust is obviously, and trust and integrity, it kind of go hand in hand in that regard. But if I can't task you to go do something and be comfortable that you're going to give me honest, real-time, actual, this is how it's going to look, this is how it's going to go, and go execute it, then you don't have a place at my table. And if I can't trust the fact that you're going to tell me the truth, if you're selling, if you're operational, if you're in a leadership role, if I can't trust that what you're saying is real, then stay away. I don't have time in a business position, I don't have time as a leader to deal with chasing down truths. I should be able to ask one question and you tell me, and if it's right, or if it's truth, then that's right. Even if it's not what I want to hear.
I was just going to say, even if it's not what you want to hear.
Even if it sucks, even if I'm like, dang it, I'm in the asphalt business with Pavecon, even if it's raining outside and we can't go work and revenue is zero for that day, you know what? Don't tell me it's sunny outside. I need you to be forthcoming and honest to the situation, because if not, then I can't do the things as a leader to go execute. And honestly, lack of integrity is a fireable offense on first time go.
Absolutely.
I don't play that game.
That is respectable.
I
like that.
My wife always says, just rip the Band-Aid off. When it comes to if you don't, even if you don't want to hear it,
right,
it's better to just get it out there.
That's hard though with when you're dealing with wives and
tell me about
fiancés. That's way harder than business.
Yeah, right.
No, I failed way too many times. I just get it done. Let's just, it's happening again. Let's move forward.
Exactly. All right. So also on the leadership front, some of this is pretty obvious, but I want to hear what you guys say as far as, having an ethical and moral character. Mm-hmm. I think it goes along with what you just said, but feel free to take it one step further.
Yeah. So, I mean, so one thing I will say is values. I'll talk about values here and understanding and defining your values, because ethics and moral decision-making, once you break the lines a few times. Now, combat and war, those lines are a little blurry sometimes because you got to live, right? But business, it's very straightforward. And this is something I take from the military, is that there's nothing in business that's going to kill me right this second. Nothing. So if I'm going to lie and I'm going to cheat and I'm going to steal, the reality is I'm not very good at my job.
Yep.
Right? I suck. Like, I should be better at what I do and perfect my craft so I don't have to cheat, steal, lie, whatever. I actually read a book by a guy who started the company BlackRock, a private equity company. Schwartzman, I believe is his last name. And he believed in fair and equitable. Fair and equitable. Everything you do should be fair and equitable. Both sides should win in a negotiation. And this guy has the largest private equity company in the world. If he can do it, then I can do it, right? And so when it comes down to moral character, if you will, you got to define your value system. Right, as a leader, and so I talked about journaling and all that earlier. I sit down and I say, who am I, as a person, as a leader, as a role model, as a father, as a husband, fiance, whatever it is, and I say, who am I? What is my value system? If I can define my core values, and like in the Navy, the core values are honor, courage, commitment. I'm pretty sure I could ask any Navy person that's been around that's alive, and they could answer that question. And it starts to define everything you do, right? And so when it comes down to character or moral decision-making, the reality is that if I understand my core values as a person, decision-making becomes a lot easier because I know right and wrong. And it's my right and wrong. It may not be your right or wrong, but it's mine. And I'm not breaking that for anybody, right? Mm-hmm. Honor, courage, commitment, honesty, integrity, respect, effective communication. These are things, that are vital to me as an individual. And therefore they become vital to me as a leader. And so leadership isn't like a 9 to 5. Leadership is a 24/7.
Yep.
And the reality is that if I'm driving my car and I'm MFing you, because I do that a lot, Is that really fit my value system?
Nope.
Not a chance. Would I talk to my kids that way? Not a chance. Would I talk to my employees that way? Not a chance. So the reality is I screw up all the time, but I got to bring myself back to be centered so that when it comes down to really make important decisions, I'm not going to get swayed by bullshit.
You're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Good.
You're fine.
The analogy here, that what you just said about it even boils down to like when you're driving and how you act. And I swear to God, you are not going to believe this. I was driving here today and I was thinking about like the different leadership principles I have in my mind. And I'm like, it's not just when you're at work from 9 to 5 or whatever those core hours are. It's 24 hours a day, like you said.
No doubt.
Every decision you make, every action, it's got to be, it's part of you and who you are. And you mentioned the core values. At what point in a person's life do you think those core values are solidified, or do you think they're changing all the time?
I think they're I think you're adapting to the new roles you're in. Like everybody's in a different life cycle. So when I was in the military, it's interesting you say that. So whenever I was in the military as a junior, young Navy SEAL, I lived the lifestyle of what you would think of as a junior Navy SEAL. Yeah. I was at the bar, I was partying, I was having fun, right? I made some bad decisions early on, and I had a guy come to me, and he was like, "You're a Navy SEAL," and he's a SEAL also, and he was like, "What are your core values?" And I was like, "Honor, courage, commitment, hoo-yah." And he was like, "That's bullshit." He's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Do you live that every day? Is being a Navy SEAL even aligned to that?" And I was like, "Man, that's a life cycle I'm in right now of being a Navy SEAL. Do my core values align with being a Navy SEAL?" I determined, yes, 100% they do, because what I was doing was righteous. And I could 100% get behind that. But now that I'm a civilian, are my value systems the same? When I was in the teams, a lot of my value system was, taking care of others, self before others, excellence as far as perfecting craft. And like family was not something that I actually was a huge part of, to be honest with you. So my sons are badass, but I wasn't around early on because I chose war because that was my core value system. But when I transitioned out and when I realized it was time to transition out, my core value shifted to family being one of those. And my sons became priority. Right now, I went through a divorce and it was messy, and that happens because of some bad decisions on both parts. Three sides to every story, situation.
I got you.
And that's okay. But I realized that family became a priority, which therefore became a value to me. So excellence and achievement and those values were still there, but family now became one. So how do I now balance that act of being an operator and being a family member? So as the life cycle progressed, my values, I either added values or I subtracted them. I don't think the whole, all of them changed. I think there's some really good ones in there that will stay forever, but I picked some up or I took some away and started creating more balance in who I am.
Yeah. A question about that. Where was I going to go? I lost my train of thought here for a minute.
This guy's blowing my mind tonight.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. He's getting in depth on this.
So when you come out of the military, I'm sure you're like, especially being a Navy SEAL, but the military in general, you got to have so much self-confidence, right? And I know that, being a leadership in the business world, you're probably expected to have a certain amount of self-confidence, but is there a line between self-confidence and arrogance and being cocky? Because the arrogance, that doesn't work in the business world most of the time. There's got to be a sense of humility.
It doesn't work in the SEAL teams either.
Yeah.
There is a very fine line there because, how much are you wanting to achieve? And sometimes overachievement gets confused with cockiness, right? I can put myself in this position and survive. I got this, right? Yeah. But there is some confidence inside of that. I do think that humble, Marcus Aurelius and these guys wrote about this humble ethic, ethos, that you didn't always have to beat your chest to show you were the best. Sometimes you just had to show you were the best. And there's a lot to that, right? And so the whole talk about it, you don't have to tell everybody, just show them. I talk to my sons a lot about this. So my son's a baseball player, soccer player, and he'll score a goal or he'll have a great pitch or whatever. And he's like, "Dad, did you see that?" And I'm like, act like you've been there before, buddy.
Exactly.
Just go out and do it again. Can you do it again?
Yep.
Is that what you did when you had like a 65-yard punt? You
No,
just
no,
be
no.
like, I've been there before.
I beat my chest, took my helmet, threw it all out. I was jumping all around.
Well, and going to the SEALs after the NFL, was that what was the transition there? Did you get a hard time? Anything with that?
You talk about humble. Going from not a successful NFL guy, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't a success. I was there, but I wasn't there for long. And then all of a sudden I was in boot camp. So I was an enlisted guy. I graduated college and been enlisted into the Navy at 23 years old. I was a little bit older too. They called me Flipper in boot camp because of the Dolphins. And so here I am, this 23-year-old guy. Now I'm a recruit in the Navy, and I'm a recruit at BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition School. And some instructors liked it. Some instructors didn't like it. And they challenge you and they find your weaknesses and they exploit them for sure. But you're talking about being humbled. I went from being a tip of the spear football player where I thought I was a badass to being around real badasses.
Yeah.
So BUDS, is that the CBs?
No, BUDS is SEAL training.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Like, what's the difference between those? Is that...
So CBs are they're combat engineers, if you will.
Okay.
So they build things. So we would deploy with CBs and they would build our outstations or they would build our infrastructure, right? And they were awesome dudes. They were really cool guys that did phenomenal work. And if you're looking to hire a construction manager, project manager, look at the CBs because those guys are stellar at what they do, and they've done it with bullets flying. So
Crazy.
they're great. But so they're on the infrastructure build, but in combat zones. We were direct action forces that went after bad guys. That was our sole mission set.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And I do know the CBs can become hell of a wrestler as well. And a governor.
John Rose? John Rose is a CB, though.
Oh, well.
Who are you thinking
I'm talking of Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh.
Jesse was a SEAL.
Jesse the Mind.
He was a SEAL.
He was a SEAL.
He was a CB, though, right?
Maybe previous.
This
He
was
a SEAL.
off of my Howard Stern knowledge. So
No,
what he says on there and like the different groups he was in, and that guy talks a lot and really fast. So
I honestly don't. I know he was a SEAL.
Okay.
From my limited knowledge of him, he was. His whole introduction to the public space, but he might have been a CB first because a lot of back in the day before I joined, you had another rate. So rates are kind of your MOS in the Navy. So he might have been a CB first and then went to BUDS, but he was a SEAL though.
and more importantly, when are you going to become a wrestler?
I've tried. Spandex doesn't agree with me.
No, it's not your forte.
No, I think they would boo me off the stage.
Good stuff. So before we move on to our next topic, which is going to be operational excellence, if you could sit down and have beers with one non-fictional leader, who would that be?
Ooh, there's a lot of great ones out there. I mean, I think there's obvious ones where you say like Jesus and understanding that, but I'm a big fan. So I talked about Marcus Aurelius earlier. I'm a big warrior guy. Mm-hmm. I think that there's so many interesting aspects of the warrior culture. I like the Viking culture. I like Alexander the Great was somebody who was a conqueror, but he also had a very metaphoric side to him, or interpersonal side to him. And I would like to look at people in their late years. So I would say Marcus Aurelius in this one, just to understand in his late years, after he had conquered and been in war and been down these interesting paths, he was able to. I would love to understand how he could step back and reflect on his life and truly embrace that warrior culture. I think another one would be interesting is Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of, you don't need to know 10,000 punches, you just need to do one punch 10,000 times.
Yep.
I think that's really, really interesting. I think he was taken too early in this world, but those guys that they developed this interpersonal perspective that allowed them to be great, and their greatness impacted over lifetimes. How do you have that much leadership inside of you to impact not just the four of us, right? That's one thing to be like, yeah, I'm a leader of four people. It's another thing to say, my leadership was generational.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
I got to go home and work on myself.
Yeah, you do.
Jeez. Man, oh man.
Are you just now figuring that out, Shoots?
Apparently. Carrie's going to appreciate this guy by the time I get home tonight.
Good.
I'm going to be
Gladiator,
working
one
on
of my
myself.
top 5 favorite movies of all time, for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, when he's standing there and he's rubbing his hands through the hayfield.
Yeah. Oh, God, it's awesome.
And there's you can just tell, like, again, it's a movie,
Yeah.
but you can tell that there's like a deeper train of thought, right? How do you get to that deeper train of thought, essentially? And so I want to start meditating, because I really feel like there's a lot of lessons that I've learned in life, hard, soft, whatever they are, that I can pull from now to go whichever direction I'm going in life, and be a better servant to the world I'm living in. And that's the challenge I always live with is am I impacting enough? Like I work for Pavecon, and that's great. The company's phenomenal, and the people I work with are phenomenal people, and I see great leadership all over the place. But is that like my calling?
Right.
Like, is that influence enough?
Yep.
And one thing's monetary, like, oh, I'm doing fairly well. Do I turn that down? But at some point you have to look at your values and say, is money one of those, or is impact one of those?
Sure.
And so, like, how do you put yourself in a position? I've thought about like running for office, because I feel like that's like, oh man, I can go in and really fight the system and drain the swamp and be a part of this, like making it better. But then there's some minutia around that, but that's another conversation. But like, what's the impact? And I also think about this all the time, and I'm kind of jumping around, but these 805s got me thinking, is what is my legacy?
Yep.
As a leader, you look at this and you say, what the hell is my legacy going to be?
Yeah.
My ex-wife has a legacy for me for sure. But like, what's the rest of the world think of me?
For sure.
And even more important, what do my kids think of me?
Yep.
That's like the legacy you look at and you go, well, as Cannon or Porter, my dad was cool. My dad was a good dude. My dad was a badass. What are those describing words?
Right.
So my son's named after my grandfather, Tom Cannon, who is, in my opinion, a legend. He did it the right way.
Yeah.
When he shook your hand, it meant something. When he looked you in the eyes, it meant something.
Yep.
When he spoke, which wasn't that often, you better listen. His legacy will impact generations of my family forever, because those stories will be told. Yeah. Right? And he didn't tell them a lot, or if ever, but he was a World War II D-Day vet, tank commander in the Army. He was there 3-4 years. He fought. He had a Bronze Star. He had a Purple Heart. He was a dude. And when he spoke, it meant something. Yep. And he has a legacy that he'll leave forever, even though it impacts me. Maybe I'll impact others. But what is that, and what am I leaving behind?
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. And I mean, I had an uncle who was in Vietnam and, came back and got a Purple Heart and stuff like that. He's never told anybody the story behind the Purple Heart ever. But he's one of these kind of guys that, just like you were mentioning, he could be in a room, and he's very perceptive. He always knows what's going on. He smiles at the right time. He's just got this comforting personality, and he doesn't say much, but when he speaks, it's like you're drawn to him, just drawn to him immediately. And he always has something valuable to say, no doubt about it. I know that person.
And that's even to give ourselves a pat on the back, I guess, for our booking, or your booking, Robert Vollmer.
Yeah.
That guy, 103 years old, right? 102,
103, yep.
Just retired, and he'd been surveying for 67
7 years.
Working as a 102-year-old
gentleman.
He was
working as a 102-year-old guy for the state of Indiana. So, like, somebody like that, we literally just, Kent asked him one question, and we just sat back and let him talk for an hour.
It was amazing.
It was probably one of the best episodes we've ever had.
It was amazing.
So,
Which makes you think,
with
like,
what you're saying there.
like his selflessness, a leadership quality that is forever lasting. So he led for 60 years, government, if you will, selflessly. Yep. Right. At what point do you say, I can make more money doing something else? Like I look at people like that and I go, damn, like, what was he thinking? How did he think through that? How did he face the challenges that he faced? Like, that's like, he would be someone I'd love to just sit there and drink a beer with.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We haven't booked for
his birthday
in May. When he turns 104, he's coming back on, he said.
Oh, that's super
so
cool.
We'll have you back. You can sit in on that one.
Beers on me. That one.
For sure. So let's kind of transition here a little bit to operational excellence and how leadership ties into it. So the best definition, well, in my opinion, that I found as far as operational excellence goes is the execution of the business strategy more consistently and reliably than the competition, with lower operational risk, lower operating costs, and increased revenues relative to its competitor. Like that?
I like that a lot.
That's not so bad, right?
Nailed it.
I can't take credit for it, but so how do we get there?
I think there's that old expression, like, make more than you spend.
Yeah.
And it's, business operational excellence is looked at a lot of different ways. I think goals and success are looked at, depending on who you are. If you're my sales guy, your goal and success is selling, right? Like, I'm holding you to that. What are you accountable to? And so your revenue goal is your business pipeline, and that's how you are graded. Me as a business leader, my bottom line is what's important to me, and what I'm graded on, right? And so business excellent, I think you need to look at where you sit in the circle of your business, right? So at what level am I in? So if I'm a new guy, my business excellence, operational excellence is probably just getting shit done, right? And in the SEAL teams, that was a big deal. Like, if you're a new guy, you better raise your hand. You better get it done, right? And or you're getting whatever happens in the SEAL teams. Once you become a leader or a manager, we'll say manager, your operational excellence is ensuring that your crew and team get it done, and you're looking a little bit ahead. You're trying to find the next challenge that they may face, and you're driving them to the goal, right? So the manager role, the leader role at that point is you're the sled dog driver. The sled dog is your team, you're the sled dog driver, and you're giving guidance, right? So your operational excellence is making sure that you're hitting your goals and you're doing so efficiently and effectively. At the next level up of kind of that leadership role, once you go into this leadership where you're leading other leaders, your operational excellence becomes a little bit different. Now it's more bottom line, like, how do I cut costs by still getting the same results, by still going after it and driving company goals, right? And then when you're a visionary, your operational excellence, yeah, for sure, you're looking at bottom line, you're looking at all that, but am I evaluating the company on the trajectory of growth? So where am I on the S curve, right? So I think that understanding the different leadership levels and the different employee levels, operational excellence is going to be different for everyone. Now, the vision of the company is to be profitable, or you're not a company anymore. But each part to that is going to play, or each level to that is going to play a role in getting to the vision. And so mission, vision, values are obviously something I live by. And so I love your definition, but I think if you broke it down even further, every piece to it has to understand their exact role to get to that. And there's a lot behind that. I think communication plays such a huge part in that. I could tell a bunch of stories on bad communication, but operational excellence, that's, to me, like, thinking through that in a little more granular level is cost as people and material and product, COGS, if you will. How do I limit that? How do I make that effective? How do I lower overhead by still being excellent? And that, to me, is giving direct, clear guidance to the people to go execute at the right levels at the right time to create the right outcomes.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, and I like this, operational excellence isn't just looked at from the highest level.
No.
Like, every single person, every single employee should have their own personal operational excellence that they're trying to live up to or achieve.
100%.
Right?
And I think that's goal setting, right?
Sure.
I think that y'all's most junior employees, do they have goals?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I just think of Bill Belichick. Do your job.
Yeah.
Do your job.
I feel like you would love Bill Belichick.
Yeah, for sure. I think I would, but I think, it's accountability at every level. It's leadership at every level. And you heard me spot on that every level should have a goal. Every person should be tasked for a desired outcome. Because if you're not, then where are you working towards? Especially when you're working with the millennial force, if they don't have like a purpose in what they're doing, or they're not going in a certain direction, then they're not really going to shine. You give them that purpose and you give them that ability and you communicate effectively, they'll take off and they'll be great, right? And so I think you have to designate leadership at every level. And if you're looking at the top brass to be your idea of operational excellence, you're probably looking at the wrong levels. Because if they're focused on the business, actually, of the day-to-day, then they're probably not focused on the right thing, and their operational excellence is wrong. Yep. I think Jeff Bezos said it the best. He's like, if you're a leader, a CEO of a business, and you're thinking of this quarter, you're thinking in the wrong quarter. You should be 2 or 3 years ahead of yourself. And so I think that you have to be able to break that out, disseminate information effectively and efficiently so that every level inside your organization can execute at the highest levels.
I think it's safe to say that most companies don't function that way, unfortunately. No. So I think for those companies, it would be a paradigm shift to all of a sudden try to get all your employees to be thinking that way. that's a tough road to hoe there.
Well, culture, right? I mean, that's a cultural shift. And so what I would challenge there is incremental change.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't come in throwing hand grenades. I talk about that all the time. If you come in my office and you throw hand grenades because that's the change you want, it's not going to work. It's going to blow up and we're all going to die. But that incremental change. So I would start very, very easily into this. As a leader, I'd say, what are my goals? What's my 1 year goal? What's my half year goal? What's my quarterly goal? Hell, what's my goal tomorrow? So when I wake up in the morning, I actually write down my calendar, what I have to do that day. And then I write down, what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? What is my purpose for the day? And I name like 2 or 3 things. I keep it very simple because I need to focus on those things. And then I have a brain dump part of my journal as well. And all of those need to align to my actions for the day, right? And so me as a leader in an organization, I'm looking at way down the line. I'm looking at bigger picture, trying to organize and orchestrate it all. But my guys that were sales guys, I needed them to show up on time and do the proposals and talk to customers. And so your daily goal was X, your weekly goal was Y, your monthly goal was Z. And if you did X, Y, and Z, then you're going to be rewarded for that, right? And that to me starts to create this operational excellence. So incremental change, start high level with the leader. I'm going to set a goal and a vision for the company, and I'm going to tell everybody about it 1,000,000 times over. Change management, 10 times you have to say it or no one's going to listen. And then I'm going to challenge the people right below me to do the exact same thing. And then I'm going to let them work through the shit that they're going to go through because they're going to fail. And then I'm going to challenge the people below them. And then I'm going to challenge the next people. And now I've created top-down leadership. Yep. After I evaluate that, I'm going to start to create bottom-up leadership. And I'm going to let the people below me say, this is what I'm working on. Okay, cool. Well, this is what I'm working on. Now it goes up. And now we've created a top-down, bottom-up leadership style that's going to be culturally successful.
You mentioned something there, about writing things down. And there is definitely something to be said about literally writing stuff down. It's totally different than putting a flag in your Outlook calendar and all that BS. Yeah. When you write it down, it immediately elevates it as far as accountability goes.
Oh, isn't that part of the 7 habits of highly effective people? What is it, Stephen Covey? Again, one of those books that, the lovely Carrie got me to read this one. And one of them is making lists and actually physically writing things down and setting your goals.
For sure.
So my old boss, I don't know if this numbers are spot on. I might butcher this a little bit. He'd say, if you write it down, you're 30% more likely to succeed. And if you tell somebody, you're 70% more likely to succeed.
Totally hold you accountable, especially if you tell your spouse. Then it really, that's like 100%. Otherwise, she's going to ride me until it's done.
No doubt. I live that world. Yeah, so I start my day every day by writing it down. And then I actually physically cross it off. And I know some people say, well, checklists are not what leaders do. And I disagree. Because it gives me my parameters. Yeah. Because I'm one of those guys that I have ADD. I think we talked about that a minute ago. And I'll end up in the wrong state if you let me. But you got to give me, if I give myself the parameters, because at some point you got to lead yourself, and I'm in a position where I'm doing that. I give myself those checklists, and when I finish it, you know what? I start looking to the next checklist. Yep. But that doesn't mean I go execute that next checklist. Maybe that's a time for me to reflect and make sure that all the things behind me have been done correctly, and follow up on the things that I need to follow up on. I am a big believer in, you may work really, really long days, and that's okay, because there's a lot of busyness that goes on with being a leader, because you have your task and then you have everybody else that comes and tells you about their task. And that's a part of your day. But I like to look ahead, but I also like to let the things that I'm looking ahead at happen in the future. Yeah. Right. Because I need that time as a leader to reflect on the things that I'm doing really, really well, or not doing really, really well, and make those adjustments. Yeah. And it's also, you mentioned working, a bunch of hours as a leader, this and that, but I mean, something that I almost drive myself insane with is working smarter, not harder. Like almost to the point where I become obsessed with it. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And something else you said that I'll be curious to see what your reaction is to this. Maybe even do this. I have no idea. But, you mentioned, physically writing the list down and then checking things off as you accomplish those things. So my oldest daughter, she's 24, works at Vanguard, and
her and my youngest daughter both got, journals and planners or whatever for Christmas. And she's to the point now, I mean, she does exactly that. She'll write down her goals for the day or whatever things to do. And she goes, Dad, sometimes I'll even write stuff down that I've already done and check it off just because it makes me feel good.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So there's Admiral McCraven. He wrote a book about it, Make Your Bed Every Day, right? You start your day with a win. Mm-hmm. That win is so important because it gives you that snowball effect, right? Yep. Jocko talks about this too. A lot of the Navy SEALs that have written books, and I'm not a book writer, I'll never be one of those guys, but a lot of those guys are my buddies, and they write these books, and it's about getting wins, creating that snowball effect, and creating that snowball effect of not only impact for yourself, but impact for others, right? And one thing that we talk a lot about in the SEAL teams, and it applies to business, because a lot of things don't apply because I've made those mistakes already, to think that I can treat my team like the SEAL teams. It doesn't work all the time. But one of the things that we look at is structure allows me to do a whole lot more, and almost structure is freeing type of concept. That structure of writing it down and checking it off, it's amazing how much more productive I am by saying, okay, boom. At 9 o'clock, I have this. At 10 o'clock, I have this. At 11. Now, am I going to miss? Absolutely, sometimes. But I can finish these tasks fairly fast, and it frees me up to do so much more, right? And then it allows me to truly be creative and say, okay, well, how are we going to do this tomorrow? How are we going to do this a year from now? How are we going to make a difference and an impact and create more revenue opportunities and growth, and not just be like buried in the minutia, right? And so that's if I didn't do that, I would waste time doing shit that doesn't matter. And that as a leader is so frustrating. Like that I can't stand whenever I feel like, man, I was so busy. I'm so tired today. And then I look back at what I did and I'm like, I didn't do anything. I just sent a bunch of emails. Right. And so the reality is that structure allows me to free me up to go grow my business.
It frees your mind.
100%.
I do feel like if I have a full day scheduled and I get things done, I feel more energized at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Than when it's just
no question.
willy-nilly
No
BS
question.
all day.
Well, it's a win. It's a win. And winning, I love winning, right? And so
Get out of bed with a W.
That's exactly
That's what
right.
I like. Now I'm going to have to get up and make my bed tomorrow.
That's one book actually that I've read recently, so it's funny that you mentioned that, and I've actually subscribed to that probably as if like a year ago, every morning making your bed. And it's that psychology of getting that first early, like you said, that first early win. It's so easy to do, but that can snowball. And when you set that, then everything else kind of just falls in place after that. And it's such an easy thing to do, not even to say when you're done with your day and you're coming back to that, like, and you know that you can just start over from there. It's a cycle and you see that it's made. Yep. So that's something I started to do about a year ago after I read that. And it's such a small book to read it.
Yeah.
Definitely check that out.
So it's a small W, and then you get that W at the end of the day when you come back in your bed.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
I like this. It's a
full cycle,
end to end.
Yeah.
Well, think about it, dude. Like, and the reality is like in Bud. So when Admiral McCraven talks about that, I believe he's talking about Bud. I haven't read the book, but I know the story.
Yeah.
And so in Buds, you just get your butt kicked. So Bud's basically an under demolition school. You just get your butt kicked for like 12 hours in the day. Like you're just getting hammered. But every day you wake up and you make your bed and you're like, okay, cool. I did something that nobody else is going to tell me I'm a piece of shit for.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Now they may trash my bed because I didn't have it perfectly creased, but the reality is I did that and I did it the best of my ability, and it looks really good, and I'm proud of that.
Yep.
Now I may walk out the door and get punched right in the face by 10,000 different problems, right? But you know what? That's okay, because I'm going to absorb those problems. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to prioritize what I need to do. I'm going to execute, and then I'm going to come home and I'm going to sit down on that freshly made bed, and I'm gonna say, you know what? Tomorrow I'm gonna fucking get after it again.
Yep. And your wife's gonna be like, "You made the bed today. This is awesome."
She's actually listening to this right now, going, "That piece of shit doesn't make his bed."
Well, I would say like the biggest thing is humility.
Yeah,
and
boils down to it for sure, man.
Man, oh man, I am fantastic at that one. But you know, is it really making your bed to the best of your ability, or is it just kind of like throwing the sheet and blanket up and okay, that's enough?
I'll tell you this, like,
because that's where I'm
however you make your bed is how you're gonna make
then
your day.
I half-ass my days.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you're gonna do it, do it. Like, if you're gonna do it,
do it right. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, even as something as simple as making your bed, and then when you do one thing right, everything else you're going to do that day, you're going to do right too.
Do it right or don't do it at all.
My grandfather used to always say, "There's two ways to do things. There's the right way, and then again."
Mhm.
So
Love
just
it.
go ahead and do it the right way.
Oh my goodness, this guy's so full of mantras from my life. I need to write these down.
Let's take it. I mean, not to get too like philosophical or whatever, but so you make your bed. You know, you've got your list done for the day, and I think that puts you in the right mindset. You know, I don't know what you feel or how you feel about the power of positive thinking. You know, I don't want to talk about the secret or whatever. You know, but I mean, I personally think there's something to it. You know, you put it out there into the universe that you're achieving this or whatever. It's more likely to happen.
No question. And I keep talking about the SEAL teams a lot, but that's my experiences. We used to always talk about there is no plan B, right? I'm putting it to the world that I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. I'm going to do it. It's not going to, nothing could stop me from getting to that point. I used to tell people I was a Navy SEAL before I showed up here. I just got to go through the process now. Right. And maybe that's a little bit cocky, but that was me saying, you know what? I'm putting it to the universe that there's no other freaking option available. You know what? And I'm going to show up every day and I'm going to get my butt kicked and I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. But at the end of the day, tomorrow I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do it again because I got 6 months.
Yep.
And that's I can sit on my head for 6 months. Like, it doesn't matter. Put it to the universe, write it down, tell your friend, tell whoever, wake up in the morning, have a morning huddle with your team and say, hey, here's my goals for the day. I'm excited. Let's get it done. And then they can hold you to it or whatever it is. And so put it out to the world is interesting. I was talking about this earlier. One of my best friends in Buds, I won't say his name, but he's an absolute savage, like just complete stud. He'll be here next week. I'm really excited to see him. I haven't seen him in a while. One of the best human beings I've ever been around in my life. We're in Hell Week. It's like the first day of Hell Week. And Hell Week is 5 days of staying up all night and never sleeping. You sleep like 2 hours and it's a suck fest. And so he looks at me and he goes, and he had been to Buds before and didn't make it. And he was coming back a second time. Now he's one of the most elite operators in the world.
Wow.
But he looks at me and he goes, everybody called me T.O. back then. And he was like, T.O., you going to quit? And I was like, no, I'm not going to quit. And I go, are you going to quit? And he goes, no, I'm not going to quit. And I said, okay. And he looks at me and he goes, I'm going to hold you to it. And I'll never forget that the rest of my life.
Yep.
I remember exactly where I was on the boat. And I looked at him and I said, I'm going to hold you to it too.
Yep.
And every time he put it out to the world,
yep.
I'm going to hold you to becoming a Navy SEAL. I don't care what happens right this second, tomorrow, the next day. I look at you, you look at me, and we know what that means. And he put it to the world and he held me accountable.
I think that's the first time I ever got goosebumps on this show. Not gonna lie, that one was good. Well,
and I think
man,
you can tie that into business as well. As a business owner, whether you're a small business, your goal or whatever is going to be, $1 million gross revenue or what have you, and you can do that exact same thing. And once you put it out there, you're much more likely to accomplish those goals.
No, our company just went through that exercise of, hey, every division leader, you need to create your budget for 2021. You need to create your goal set for 2021. Every project manager or sales guy, you need to create your goal. And we're going to put it into our CRM and our Power BI. And every month you're going to be graded on that, right? So you're going to tell me what you're going to do, and then you're going to do it. And if you don't do it this month, guess what? Your goal for next month just got a little bigger because your in-state goal is where you're after. And, I think there's so much to that. Beforehand, we never really had done that at this company. This was before I'd been there. And it was always like, yeah, we got goals. And, we were a growing company. I mean, we're a very large company, Pavecon is. And a lot of success had happened. It was almost like a success by accident. It was a lot of hard work and people grinded. And the owner, David Walker, who is incredible person, he did it on his back, right? It wasn't like I'm setting a goal for tomorrow. It was like, I'm doing this and this is what I got. This is my life's work. But now we're starting to create this opportunity to truly hold our team accountable. And we saw growth this year. And we're going to continue to see that growth because we've identified where we're going. I always tell people as a leader, the sled dog mentality is you're going to give me a left flank. You're going to give me a right flank. Give me a goal. I may beat the walls down trying to get to that goal, but I'm going to get there. And I'm going to drive my sled as fast as I possibly can. And I'm going to let my sled dogs work as hard as they possibly can. And I'm going to crack that whip and I'm going to move them. I'm going to move them. I'm going to move them. But we got to get that goal. But if you don't tell me what that goal is or identify that goal, don't expect me to ever get there.
How important is it to make those goals like realistically achievable? I know there's a lot of companies out there that just kind of set goals for their sales folks that are really unrealistic,
Yeah.
and then they don't reach those goals, and then maybe that's that sled dog mentality you're talking about, and they get beat down because they didn't reach those goals that were basically unobtainable in the beginning. Don't those goals have to be somewhat realistic?
Absolutely. I never understood like stretch goals. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Like that I thought that was always silly. I was like, so buds has a finite end state. You graduate, right? And so like, I never really understood, like, if I know you're a $2 million guy and that's what you sell and that's what you've done historically for the past 5 years, why would I tell you to sell 3?
Mm.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yep.
Maybe
then you're going to feel like a failure.
You're going to feel like a failure, but also you're really good at selling 2 million. Maybe I'll say 2.1. Maybe I'll say 2 million, but I'm going to start grooming you for a leadership role.
Yeah.
This may be easy. 2 million may be easy for you. So I'm going to fill your plate, not with going and selling more, but I'm going to fill your plate maybe with some professional development.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to fill your plate with, hey, go spend a little time with your family.
Yep.
You know, recharge that battery. I'm going to fill your plate with, hey, can you please go mentor that new guy who's struggling a little bit?
Yep.
Right? 2 million, the difference between 2 million and 3 million is a shit ton of work that is not going to allow him to give back to the organization.
Mm-hmm.
You know, mentorship is something I truly believe in. And if you're a leader and you're a part of an organization and you're not identifying people to bring up and to mentor correctly, then you're failing as a senior leader inside of an organization, right? And so I would rather give you 2 million instead of 2.5 and give you a new guy to groom.
Yeah, you definitely just struck a chord with the M word there.
Yeah, I mean, mentorship is something that I am a huge believer in, and unfortunately, I'm part of a profession that is, I don't know, going away just because there aren't enough mentors, enough people that are willing to be mentors, and I mean that's definitely one of the words that it's a trigger word for me. Absolutely,
it's probably the most important thing you can do. You know,
absolutely.
Like again, it goes back to your legacy, what we just were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had one of my new guys. I love this dude. He told one of the other old guys that he was so thankful to have me as an old guy. And it wasn't because I was like a good operator. I took time to like teach him. And I hammered him when I needed to hammer him. And I rewarded him when I needed to reward him. But I just took the time. And the reality is like, if you want to have a great workforce, onboard them really, really well. Like focus on onboarding because that's probably the most important piece to this whole puzzle.
Yep.
And then give them a mentor that they can confide in, you know, because they're scared of their leader because they don't want to let them down.
Yep.
But if they have a mentor they can go to and be like, man, that Thomas guy, he's a real dick. And they're okay, and that's okay. Or they can go in and say, hey, I really don't understand how to do this. Like they said a bunch of stuff in that morning meeting that I don't understand. Can you please explain it to me? And then all of a sudden that mentor says, absolutely. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it with you.
Instead of ridiculing.
Exactly. Instead of saying, you didn't get the job done. Why didn't you get the job done? And they look at you and go, I didn't know how.
Right.
I actually have a funny story, and it's real fast.
Go for it.
Good.
So I'm a leader. I'm trying to be a leader in the teams and SEAL teams. And I had a task that I tasked my newer guys to go build a bunch of boats. And it was like Zodiac boats that you drive around and you zip around in the ocean and whatever. And so I came in, I said, hey, I need these done by 9 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. Get it done. Peace. I'm going upstairs to do whatever I need to do. I come down at like 8:30 in the morning and like 1.5 boats had been done out of like 7 boats. And I'm sitting there, I lose my mind. I flip some tables. I start screaming. I'm like, what? How could you not? What the heck? I don't understand. And finally they look at me and they're like, dude, we didn't understand how to do it. And I was like, shit.
Wow.
I'm the problem.
Yep.
So you failed.
As a leader, I failed them as a leader, as a mentor.
Yep.
And I sat down and taught them how to do it. And the next thing you know, they crushed it.
Yep.
It was the best. I was like, man, that's great. I couldn't have done this any better. I never wanted, like, y'all are amazing at what y'all do. But as a leader, I looked at it and said, man, I completely failed because I didn't take the time to effectively communicate.
Yep.
And I didn't take the time to just show them and mentor them and get my hands a little dirty and have a little bit of extra work. That's okay. Because they ended up, the results after I did it were so phenomenal that if I'd have just done that the first time, everybody would have had more time in their day to do other more important stuff.
Yeah, and that was definitely like I don't know, a career defining moment. You know, whether you knew it at that point in time or not, you know, but in hindsight, that's a great story. And I mean, good mentors are like gold. There's no doubt about it.
No question. And if you're a leader of an organization, it's your duty. I think it is your duty. It's not your duty to like coach me or say, let me give you some advice here. Let me challenge your way of thinking.
Yeah.
No. Let me actually like roll my sleeves with you. Let me walk in your shoes, because I've been there before. I understand what you're going through. The challenges of life are tough, but you know what? I'm going to be here with you, and I got your back in it.
And it builds respect as well.
No doubt.
God, that's good stuff. What's the difference between mentoring and coaching?
So there's actually a book called The $1 Trillion Coach. Really good book. I recommend y'all checking it out if y'all haven't. So coaching is essentially, I'm telling you how to do it, what to do, go do. Right? Mentoring is grabbing your hand and saying, hey, I'm here for you on all aspects. Coaches have their goals and their priorities. So win losses, if you think about like a football coach, like my job is to create wins and losses. I'm going to organize and I'm going to structure and essentially lead, right? So coaches would be more like leaders, in my opinion. The mentors would be like the 15-year vet coming in and saying, hey, rookie, this is how I do it. This is how I structure my day. This is how I eat. This is how I lift. This is how I do. So he's not there. He's there almost to be, not a friend, that's probably the wrong word, but to be a guide rail, a guidepost, if you will. The coach is there to drive and get it done and go and make those changes and tweaks and be a blunt force. The mentor is there to grab your hand and say, I've done that before and I did it really bad. You're not going to make that same mistake.
Maybe.
Well, even just going back to his exact example of leader versus mentor. Leader, you said, get it done. I'm out of here. Mentor, you did it with them.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
It's
and that's a leader and a mentor in one.
Yeah, and I think there's empathy might be the difference between.
That's a great. I love that.
Between coaching and mentoring.
Yeah, that's a tough one though.
It's a tough one. Something that I try really hard to be better at on a daily basis.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes, you and I both, my friend.
If you knew the people around me, they'd be like, Thomas, empathy. Those might be contrasting words, but yeah.
Yeah, it's important though. So from an operational excellence perspective, how do you create and build value?
I think there's lots of different types of value. I think there's the human value, human capital, if you will. There's the monetary value. First off, you got to define real goals. And I don't think monetary is always the end state goal.
Yep.
I think that yes, that keeps your business going, capitalism alive, and allows you to grow your business and to make more impact. But I also think adding value can come in so many different forms, right? Like it could be the person who takes the notes at the meetings to allow you to have more productive meetings. There's no monetary gain loss there, but allows you to be more productive. And so how do you create that value? It goes down to the levels of where you are in the business. So if you're a new guy, you're creating value by learning, right?
Right.
You're creating value by learning and willingness to try, right? And that's okay, and that's fine. And I'm willing to pay for that. I'm willing to pay you to work through that phase, that onboarding, if you will. I always call it time to value. What's your real time to value as a person? As a new guy moving into construction, which is the industry I'm in, that might be a year. But dude, whenever you hit that position where you're adding value, you're going to add so much. I see it. I can see it now. Whenever you're a leader, you're adding value by impacting and influence the people around you, by guiding, by being that visionary, by providing that guidance, by giving the influence of whatever you're trying to get to, by creating goals and so on and so forth. And so you're setting that value and you're adding that value at different levels, and it's very different things. But I always hear people talk about value as money, and I would challenge you to look differently and say, if you do the things that are revenue generating and you do them really, really well, then you're going to generate money, right? Just add value in every aspect you can, and always be looking for work. That's something I learned in the military is whenever you're talking about adding value, like when you finish something, look around and add value somewhere else, right? You're never finished. So like if we're in this space run right now and y'all were working on something and I was working on something individually and I finished it early and it was executed correctly, I would want to look around and find more work and walk up to you and say, hey, what can I do to help? because that's adding value now to you. And if I can add value to you, I can make it a better process, more effective, more efficient, and ultimately, hopefully, either save time, money, or energy, right? That's going to make the company more money, right? So when you're adding value, it doesn't need to be monetary. It needs to be something that you can actually feel and touch and grab and tangible, where you can look back on the day and say, yep, I did that.
How do you parlay all that into adding value to your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, customer focused selling, I don't believe the customer's always right. Like I always hear that, it's like the customer is right. You need to do it. Well, actually, you're in my field of expertise. If I need a weaponsmith, or if I need a weapon, I'm going to go to a weaponsmith. If I need if I need to do my taxes, I'm going to call an accountant. Right? I'm not going to tell the accountant how to do my taxes, because what the hell do I know? And so when I work with my clients, a lot of the value I like to add is saying, hey, I might not be the lowest bidder. I honestly may disagree with the scope of work that you're saying should be done, because I've been doing this for so long that I see it differently. What I'm going to add value to you is I'm going to be very, very honest and trustworthy. And if they're better than me, because for whatever reason, I'm going to tell you that. And that's okay. Because at the end of the day, I want to build a partnership. I don't want a one-time event. Yep. And so the value I add to my customer is not always like that sleazy car salesman where it's like, I can get that done. Well, you know what? Maybe I can't. Maybe I'm going to have to look around and use other resources. You know what? But I'm going to let you know that up front. And it's going to just be a very straightforward conversation. And at the end of the day, that to me gives the customer the satisfaction of saying, man, you may be a little bit more expensive, but the reality is that I trust you and I know you're going to do it right.
Yep. I think the key word there was trust, no doubt. And it's always, what do they say? It's best to undersell and overdeliver versus the opposite, of course. You don't want to be put in that position any day of the week. So.
That last answer he just gave, Jake, can you cut that? I'm going to make that like my voicemail message. Anybody that calls me, that's what they're going to hear. And yes, that is the way that I live my life as well. So yeah, that was well put.
How many customers have y'all had that you did a $100,000 job for them, right? Or $20,000 or $10,000, what doesn't matter the value. You did a job for them. Yeah. And then you never got that repeat work.
Sure.
Because you did something weird in the process, right?
Yep.
And to me, I look at that as such a huge fail. Like if you talk about adding value as an operational person, if you can get that repeat customer service, or they come back to you every time, regardless of price, because price to me is just a derivative of value and service, right? Yep. And so if they're going to come back to you every single time, and they're not even going to look for another bid or another product or another whatever, they're just going to come back to you because they know. That brand loyalty to me is so important. And if you can't create that, then you really need to look at your company and who you are and say, what am I doing wrong here?
For sure.
You're going to work so much harder, smarter, not harder.
Absolutely.
There,
Yep.
And you're going to get so much less money.
So much
monetarily,
less.
You're going to be like giving it away.
Well, your reputation's everything.
Well, I think you got to figure out who you want to be, because if you're working for a company that is getting work because you're consistently the lowest bidder, first of all, those are probably clients you really don't want to work for if they're just basing their selection off the lowest bidder, versus like a qualification-based thing. But yeah, I think it's important, and I mean, you nailed it. There's so many times where we have to stop and educate our clients. Like you said, the customer's not always right, but it's our job as professionals and experts in what we do to take the time to educate them. So
would you say selling is leading?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So selling, if you're a really good salesperson, you can lead because you can influence.
For sure.
If you're a really good leader, you can probably sell because you really understand what it is you're doing, right? And you're educating the consumer, which to me is the most vital piece to it all.
No question.
Anybody can call Pavecon, or anybody can call our competitors and say, I need you to come fix a pothole. Right. Okay, gotcha. That's a phone book lookup. That's not But can I treat them really, really well so their next pothole, they call me again? Right. And then their next pothole, they call me again. And then here you go. They need to completely redo their parking lot. Yep. Okay, that 5,000 just turned into $1 million.
For sure.
And so that's that trust, and that's the value in
you
the
got to
customer.
invest that time.
No doubt, you have to.
No question.
No question.
Just always do the right thing.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. I could talk for hours. Let's kind of move on here. Oh, this was kind of a zinger here I came up with just before we got on here. What the heck is wrong with the Arizona Cardinals from an operational excellence perspective?
I'm not saying a word because I'm friends with some of those guys. You know, I actually went. So my fiance is a Seahawks fan. So, yeah, I went to the Seahawks Cardinals game and I watched them beat the Seahawks in some crazy overtime, missed field goal, ice themselves situation.
Yep.
So I'm not going to claim that I can fix the Cardinals, but I do think they're on a good path. You know, I like their quarterback. I'm a big fan. He's a great athlete. I think they got some decent wide receivers. Obviously, Fitzgerald is a complete you're talking about a leader. There you go.
Best ever.
There's that.
Arguably.
That's an incredible.
It's a 15-year vet you were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
him and D-Hop. Oh my goodness, that's
phenomenal, right? I think they got a good coach too. He's a little bit junior. He's new and coming from the college world. Like I saw Mr. Saban go from college to the NFL, and it was a challenge. You know, there's a lot of different stuff there. I think they're putting the pieces in place.
Got to be patient, I guess.
You do, but patience only lasts so long in sports.
Well, unfortunately, and you have to see growth from year to year.
Yeah,
you know?
It's young. There's some young, but Fitzgerald seems like he's. I mean, he missed his first game in like 12 seasons this year.
It was COVID.
Yeah, which is I don't count it because that's a different. That doesn't count.
Well, this guy's got some good hair. You gonna give him Don Crow's number?
I might have to.
Oh,
might have to. We'll have a conversation.
By the same guy as Cliff Kingsbury.
Oh, I kind of style is similar to him.
Yeah,
Say this.
I'll hook you up. I got a guy.
He's a good looking dude. I'll go to that.
There you go.
Sure.
I feel like you guys could be twins.
Don
you
Crow
might be a little taller than him, but
Don Crow specializes in good looking dudes.
How did you get in? I know you were just setting me up for that one.
I
You threw it up, and I just
I grandfathered in.
literally.
All right, exactly right. All right, Thomas. Man, this could be a lengthy answer. I have no idea, or it could be short and sweet. What motivates you?
Ooh. You know, that's a tough one. And the reality is that I think there's a lot of factors to that. What motivates me is probably it's interesting because I'm one of those people that looks at myself and says, "Man, what have I done?" You know, like I got a pretty cool background, but like the reality is like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like I'm only as good as my next situation. In the SEAL teams, it's generic to say this, but like you earn your trident every day. You know, like what motivates me is that I can't let the people down around me. I got to show up every day and bring it because I'm hoping that they're doing the same thing. Right. And so when I wake up in the morning, if it's making my kids breakfast or if it's going to work or whatever that is, you got to make sure you perform because that one moment you don't, and I think I learned this in the military where it's life and death. You know, that one moment you don't could cost greatly, you know, and that's what motivates me. It's like the fear of failure almost, like showing up and sucking.
Sure.
It's internal motivation.
It is.
And that's incredible.
Yeah, I don't listen to speeches and go, hell yeah, I'm going to go punch through the wall.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather like think to myself and say, I got to do this today. And if I don't, there's consequences.
Not even going to punch through a wall for Saban?
No, not at all.
What about Metallica?
Yes. So
that'll make you punch through a wall.
So cool story with Metallica. So I listen to Metallica a lot. I'm a huge fan. But I'll start playing it. So my oldest son's favorite song is One.
Oh, wow.
And then Enter Sandman obviously is a classic that they listen to. And I'll turn it on as we're like doing something. And you'll see them in the back and they're just bobbing their heads.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, yes.
That's awesome.
You've taught them well.
Yeah, no question. What are you excited about for 2021?
Yeah, there's so much to be excited about. You know, everybody always like, oh, I'm so glad I'm done with 2020. What a disaster. You know, the reality is it's like you just got to get tough. You know what I mean? Like we're all still here. I mean, a lot of people aren't. I get it. COVID was terrible, and there's a lot of bad stuff that took place, political and so on and so forth, riots and everything. But the reality is like you look at that and you learn from it, and you say, you know what, I'm not going to do that again. Or how do we positively impact 2021? And what I'm excited about is seeing people bounce back, get back on their feet, and get after it. And hopefully they learn something from 2020, and they're not sitting here like licking their wounds. They've patched up their wounds.
Yep.
They got their war paint on and they're ready to go. You know what I mean? Because like we don't need another disaster like that. The economic downturn of what took place is going to last us for years.
Yep.
We need people to get back to work, and we need the government to open up a little bit, not to get political, and we need people to go execute and get it done, right? We don't need this bickering and animosity and nonsense. We need people to look around and say, okay, how do we get back on track here, right? And if that's working, that's working. If that's supporting, that's supporting. If that's delivering food to the home, then whatever you got to do, just do it and don't do it like we did in 2020, right? That gets anybody nowhere.
Yep.
The biggest thing is it was just a flip of the calendar. It doesn't change anything. We're still in the same place. It's just another day. But for some reason, this mindset is all of a sudden, it's a whole new world and it's all going to be better. And that's ridiculous. But
I think a lot of people look at it as like, I don't know why, but, a clean slate, let's say. It's a new year. Hopefully people have a new mindset and it's a positive mindset and it's something they can, be disciplined and carry on throughout the year. That's how things will change.
Whatever you want to look at it, like a hard reset is sometimes the best thing.
Sure.
A bad call, a bad decision as a leader, the best thing you can do sometimes is just hard reset.
For
start
sure.
over.
Absolutely.
So if we need to call 2021 the hard reset,
I like that.
I'm all about it.
Yep, I totally like that.
Scorched earth, let's start it fresh.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, okay, so you've given us like 38 of these already, but I got to know your drop-dead answer to this one. Do you have a mantra that you live by? Your
personal mantra.
Yes.
Embrace the uncomfortable.
Okay.
I like that.
He hasn't given us that one yet.
Yeah.
See that? He had that locked and loaded.
Oh,
Boom.
because I live by it. I live by it every day.
And I don't want to get back into it, but it's something that like I found myself growing as a professional and as a person by putting myself in uncomfortable situations outside of my comfort zone, as they say, like just this podcast, I am not wasn't necessarily the most outgoing person, you know what I mean? But oh my God, doing something like this is like totally brought out a part of me that I didn't even know existed, to be honest with you. It's crazy.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at your comfort zone, like the whole comfort zone factors, right? So inside your comfort zone, you're not growing. Mm-hmm. If you push those envelopes, you start to grow. You do hit a point where you start to panic. There is a panic part to growth. Right. And as effective leaders, you look around and you realize that your team has hit that panic and you pull them back down to their comfort zone. But what you do is you do an after action and say, you actually went through this growth area. Let's recap that growth. And then all of a sudden your comfort zone expands. And then your comfort zone expands. And the next thing you know, it could go to combat. It could be jumping out of an airplane. It could be leading a business. It could be giving a speech. It could be first time on a podcast. Who cares? Because you're going to embrace that situation and you're going to be in the moment, your feet firm on the ground, clear head, and ready to go.
Yeah.
I fully respect that answer, but I'm not jumping out of an airplane anytime soon. Sorry.
How about a hot air balloon? Would you do that?
No.
Come on.
No.
I think that's scarier.
Dude, I was on like a ladder this tall the other day pulling down Christmas lights, and I was shaking like a leaf. I had to like go sit down for 10 minutes afterwards.
Dude, you could never have been a Navy SEAL.
No, never. Never. This is way too weak. That comfort zone is way too small. I don't care how far you want to expand that. It's not happening.
But that's like leadership, though. That's a learned thing,
right?
man. Like you're embracing the uncomfort and growing that. If it's working out every morning, that you're going to lose your COVID.
Hey, I'm
embrace it,
down
man.
overall in life, but COVID has not been friendly to me. There's a laziness factor with that one.
Oh, man. Well, hey,
I'm going to work on my punting.
there you go. Thomas, thank you, man. This has been fantastic.
Awesome.
You crushed it. Love to have you come back again. There's so much more we could talk about. Like I said, I could talk about these topics for hours. I love it.
He's back in May.
All right.
I'm
Volmer.
calling it, yeah.
That's right, for
Volmer's
Volmer.
birthday.
Yeah.
We're
Just
gonna
keep
get
in
him a
mind,
celebrity.
you're going to ask one question, and he's just going to go, so make it a good one.
And he doesn't even answer that question.
Which is great. I think you learn more from
It
it.
was
Oh,
amazing.
man.
It was
he
amazing.
asked one question, and he just
It was
the other
great.
direction.
For sure, for sure. All right, man. Well, hey, as far as I'm concerned, that's a wrap, unless you got something else you want to add.
No, I just want to thank y'all so much for the opportunity. It was super cool to be a part of this, and hopefully I didn't ramble too much.
Not at all,
Oh,
man.
perfect.
Not at all. You crushed it for sure. All right. Another awesome show. Please be sure to check us out at thegeoholics.com. Follow us on all reputable social media outlets by searching for The Geoholics, which is where you will also find the details regarding the hospitality suite in the very near future. Download all our podcasts from Apple, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify. Don't forget to download the Geoholics app from Land Surveyors United. Email us at info@thegeoholics.com if you have any content ideas or guests on future show. Please support our friends of the program. They would love to hear from you and give you the Geoholics VIP treatment. Pay it forward. Add value, make friends. Metallica, Enter Sandman, available everywhere. Until next time, as always, be safe and healthy, everyone.
Once again, thank you to our friends of the program, Aerotech Mapping, Inc. at atmlv.com, Advanced Geodetic Surveys, Inc. at agsgps.com, Bad Elf GPS at bad-elf.com, Cobb Fenley at cobbfenley.com, Cyanic Automation at cyanicautomation.com, Diamondback Land Surveying at diamondbacklandsurveying.com, Get Kids Into Survey at getkidsintosurvey.com, Land Surveyors United at landsurveyorsunited.com, Mentoring Mondays at mentoringmondays.xyz, Monson Engineering at monsonengineering.com, Parkland Community College at parkland.edu/landsurveying, Safety Apparel at safetyapparel.us, Tiger Supplies at tigersupplies.com.